Welcome to Granny's Legacy Patterns. I'm so excited to share with you today about our Miss Muffet's Tuffets Club projects. I'm Katie at Granny's Legacy, and behind the camera is Kim, my mom.
Good morning.
Also part of Granny's Legacy. And I'm just really excited to share with you these fun projects. They're fresh and new and inspiring, and just a perfect project to stitch along with us each month. So my goal today is to get you started, show you the basics to make sure that your project starts out just perfect. So I'll hop back here and let's get started. So I have all my supplies laid out. So I'll walk through the supplies first. When you sign up for this club, each month in the mail, you will receive a little package from us. And inside of that package will be your monthly club pattern. And then also all the wools, fabrics, and also the stabilizer for the back of your background is in there too, along with the beaded embellishments that we'll need for that project. So I have mine all set out here and ready to go. So I'm going to use this pattern though. And as with all of our patterns, we always suggest the very first thing you do is read through all of the instructions. But today I'm just going to walk you step by step on getting started. If I can get the paper out of here. Here we go. So on the back of the pattern, you will find a listing of all the wools and fabrics that are in your kit, along with the threads that we have used. And we love the Valdani Pearl Cottons for use with wool applique. They're gorgeous, hand-dyed, 100% cotton, pearl cotton, and it has just a beautiful sheen and a beautiful look that just blends so beautifully with our project. And then we also list, because Miss Muffet's Tuffets will all include beaded embellishments, we also have a section that just talks exclusively about the color and the size of beads we have used. And then we move on to talking about any other supplies you might find handy. We like Heat and Bond Light for fusing our appliques, pressing a pressing sheet, which I'll talk about in a minute, a small sharp scissors, and a number 7 embroidery needle or needle of choice. So we'll talk about all of that here as we go. So the very first part of our pattern, of course, is to read it all first. It's not that many instructions, so just take 2 minutes and read through. And that way you can kind of see what the process is going to look like and how we're having you complete it and get started. So the first thing we're going to do is using a steam iron, which we like the Rowentas. We carry them on our website and in our boutique because they have a lot of holes. And that is really, really wonderful for use with wool applique because all that steam to get a really good bond with our fusibles and with our stabilizers for our background too, you need a lot of heat and steam. And so this one has a very, very precise, a great deal of steam. So that's why we like it. So we're filled up and heated up. So I'm just going to come over to my pressing mat, and I am just, I'm going to use my Pressing Affair pressing sheet, and that's because wool is a more delicate fiber, believe it or not, so it burns and scorches really easily, and I don't want to damage. And the nice thing about our Pressing Affair is it's really lightweight. You can see through it, and it's porous, so your steam actually goes through it, unlike some of the Teflon sheets where it just kind of bubbles up on top. So you get a lot of good steam through that. So I'm going to lay these out next and get them all ready to roll. And then the reason we're ironing is this just takes out any fold lines from when it was kitted, and it just makes your product beautiful to work with. People always ask us, what are the tips and tricks to a beautiful project? And it all starts just at the very foundation, just being accurate and precise from the beginning. So the next thing we're going to do is our Ultra Weft Stabilizer. And we get a lot of questions about this. This is not Heat and Bond Light, and this is not the fusible we'll use to attach our appliques. This is a woven stabilizer that we use on the back of fabrics and also looser woven wools when we use them as backgrounds or backings to projects. So our pattern called for a 10-inch piece, and it's 20 inches wide. So the first step we're going to do is using our rotary cutter. We are going to cut this into two 10-inch pieces. I'm going to set that aside, move this up. And I love, for wool applique, I'm a quilter too, but for wool applique, I love these smaller size cutting mats because most of the time, that's just what we need. I'm going to use my ruler. I love the 10.5 or the 10.5 inch square up ruler, works really well. And then I also have the Clover 28 millimeter rotary cutter, which is just the perfect size for wool applique. And I'm just going to cut that in half. So I now have two 10-inch pieces. And then our next step is going to have us fuse them to the back of our background and the back of our backing. So I'm going to lay them both here so I can do them both at the same time. And then the Ultra Weft has kind of, Mom always calls it a sugary side that feels kind of sandy and bumpy, and then a really smooth flannelly side. So the smooth, soft flannelly side is the top, and the bumpy side, all those bumps are the fusible or the adhesive. So the bumps go towards your project, and the soft side goes up. And also another thing, if you really want to be really good about this, there is a warp and a weft to the fusible. So it is woven. So one way it'll stretch and one way it will not. So if you look at your fabric and if you can kind of make it so your warp and your wefts go opposite ways, it'll create a really nice, it's not so important on these smaller projects, but with bigger projects, it really is nice. Then I'm going to cover it with my pressing affair. And this is the bigger pressing affair. We carry two sizes. This is the larger of the two, and it just works really, really well with our larger wool mat here. And I am using a lot of heat and a lot of steam. So I always turn my iron to as hot as it goes and then back a skosh. And to get a really good bond with your Ultra Weft, you're going to want to spend plenty of time on it with a hot iron and with steam. And then it just gives it a really nice, firm bond. And then as you're stitching, if you notice that it starts to detach a little bit because we are handling it, I always just go back, and if I notice it's starting to come loose, I just go back and iron it a little bit more. But if we're really, really good about it from the beginning, I very rarely have it come loose. So it's just spending enough time. There we go. So I have now attached the Ultra Weft stabilizer to my backing wool and also my background fabric. And what that does is it just makes it nicer to stitch with. It prevents puckering. What else, Mom, am I missing?
You won't need to use a hoop.
We won't need to hoop. Yep. And we just use this like on our standard blacks. You won't need it. We just use Ultra Weft once again on looser woven wools or wools that haven't been felted and cotton fabrics. So that is our first step. So we'll set that aside. And then it says with a marking pen or pencil, draw a 9-inch square on your background fabric. So when we're all done, we are going to trim our project down to 9 inches. So drawing a 9-inch square allows us to make sure that our design is centered on the finished area. So I know I have a 10-inch-ish piece of fabric here, so I'm just going to leave, I don't know, I can see where my 9-inch square will be. I'm using a 10.5-inch square ruler. So I can see where my 9-inch, and I just kind of want to center it. It's not an exact science. And then I'm using the purple iron or air erase marking pen. I don't want my line to be too permanent, but I just want it to be on there long enough for my wool placement. And this I might have to do it again. We'll see. I'll monitor it, but I think this pen might be drying out on me. Yep.
You want a new one?
Actually, maybe if I just go slower. Let's see. I feel like it should be purpler. I can see it. I don't know if you can you, is it camera picking it up? The purple line?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. That was my main concern.
We should maybe get a new one.
Should I open a new one?
Mm-hmm.
These are a great notion to have. It's perfect. It is a great marking pen. There's two that I have. Oh yeah, much better. In my my sewing kit at all times. And I like this one for use on lighter fabrics like this. And then there's a white Iron Away one by Bowen that I really like for my darks or my mediums to darks. But this works really awesome for lights. And then I'm going to take, and I'm also going to divide it into 4. So I know that 4 1/2 is half of 9. And this is just so I can get my hearts lined up perfect to start with. And the same thing here. I know that 4 1/2 is half of 9. And so I have a nice little grid for layout. Once again, I might have to do that again. We'll see if how long it takes me to cut. But depending on the humidity in your atmosphere, this could last for as much as a couple hours down to just a few minutes. So the humidity in the air does affect how quickly the lines, how long the lines last. So I'm going to set that aside. And next we're going to move on to our wool applique. So put this up front. And I'll just leave that pen with it. And so for the wool applique, it's going to have us trace all of our shapes on fusible product. And I have used, I have put the Heat and Bond Easy Print light sheets through my inkjet printer, just my standard little HP inkjet home office printer, but it has to be inkjet, so I don't have to trace by hand. So I have those already traced. You could also use a Sharpie marker. And then I just am going to use these little rotary cutters are so handy. I'm just going to use it to cut my shapes apart. Is this how you do it as well, Mom?
Mm-hmm.
I should have gone a little closer that way. Turn it this way. Oh, there we go. And our wool pieces are the exact same size as the drawn box on your tracing sheet. So the wool pieces that included in your kit are the same size as the boxes that were drawn. And then we just go back over to our iron. I'm going to lay out those beautiful artisan dyed wools. And kind of the fun thing about some of the variegates is depending on which side you use, the piece looks different. So at this point, you can decide, do I like the side with more splotches or do I like the more solid looking side? And I really like the dimension that some of the spots and beautiful modeling add. So I'm going to put the pretty side down. So I'll do that for the red too. This one has some darker and some lighter. And I kind of like that dark light. So I'm going to put that down. And then I'm going to place my tracings on top, like so. And then I'm going to, still with a hot iron, but I'm turning the steam off. So no steam at this point because we don't want a permanent bond. And steam gives you a permanent bond, and we don't want that right now. We don't want the glue to attach to the paper. So we're just gonna, a few seconds is all it takes. And we're gonna cut out. Now on the back of your pattern, it did call for a small sharp scissors. We at Granny's love the Havel scissors. They're a beautiful serrated blade scissor that just offers a lot of control and a lot of accuracy with cutting shapes. The serrations, or the little teeth, just draw the wool into your scissors so beautifully that you can use the entirety of your blade all the way from the throat to the point. The whole thing cuts. so you can get an extremely, extremely accurate shapes. The hearts aren't too hard to cut, but if you're doing a more complicated pattern, it's really nice to have extreme control over your cut. So I will cut for a little bit, and I will be back in a few minutes here to show you how to arrange them and get them put on your background piece. And we're back. I have cut out all of my hearts, and then I arranged them on my background fabric. And as you can see, we traced our quadrants, so I lined up my hearts on that, making sure they're all equal distance from each side. I then used glass head pins, and I put them in at a very flat angle, so not up and down, but very sideways. So they still go into the mat, but they lay really parallel with the background. And that was just so that holds them in place so they're not sliding around when I'm fusing. Turn the steam back on my iron so it's hot and steam. And then I'm just going to steam these in place. I'm just going to give them a couple puffs of steam. And then I'm going to take the pins out so that we don't get permanent divots in our project where the pins were. And we do carry anything you've seen me demo here, we do carry on our website, grannieslegacypatterns.com. So we have those amazing scissors, glass head pins, the great square up rulers. So I'm just going to give it a final blast of steam just to make sure those are bonded really well, because once again, heat and bond light works perfect every time if you use enough heat and steam.
And the iron will not set that air erase lines.
Nope, the iron does not make it permanent. The lines will still disappear with air over time. So there you go. We are all ready to begin stitching. So I hope you have a ton of fun making your projects, and I just wish you the very best. As for the stitches, you can visit our YouTube channel, Granny's Legacy Patterns, and we have all sorts of stitching tutorials there. We also have a tutorial on a beaded edge, which you can use to do when you do your beads around your hearts, or you can just, as the pattern suggests, add a bead between each blanket stitch. So thank you for joining me, and I wish you all the best stitching. Thank you.